Imagine this. The date is May 19th, 2012. You're in Munich, at the Allianz Arena. This is Bayern Munich's home stadium, and of the 70,000 people here, 90% are German fans in red jerseys. The air is thick with the smell of beer, bratwurst, and the unmistakable aroma of a coronation waiting to happen. This is the final of the UEFA Champions League, the most prestigious club match in the world. The opponents are the home team, the German machine of Bayern, and the Blues from London, Chelsea. Now, I need to point out that for a Champions League final to be held at the home stadium of one of the finalists, that's something that happens maybe once a decade, or even less. As any football fan will tell you, it depends on a team's long-term top-tier performance, but also a healthy dose of luck. Regardless, having one of the finalists enjoy home field advantage makes most fans believe they are the likely winners, a seemingly fated stroke of good fortune, a sign that Lady Luck is on their side. And the match itself, from the very first minute, was basically a 90-minute shooting practice for Bayern against Chelsea's goal. They completely dominated their opponents, with more than 3 times as many shots. But football, as it often does, defies logic. Just as the game was about to go into extra time, Chelsea, with their very first corner kick of the entire match, managed to equalize with a powerful header from their talisman, Didier Drogba. That was dramatic enough, but the truly legendary psychological moment was yet to come. Just as extra time began, Bayern's star player, Franck Ribéry, was brought down in the penalty box. Penalty! The referee pointed to the spot without hesitation. This was the quasi-kill shot, in your own stadium, taken by your team's superstar, in extra time of the Champions League final, to score the goal that wins the whole thing. Tell me, could you write a more perfect script for a champion? The entire German crowd rose to their feet, ready to erupt. The man taking the penalty was the Dutch winger, Arjen Robben, one of the best in the world at the time, a man who could paint rainbows with his left foot. He stepped back, ran up, and struck the ball. The football flew like a white bullet towards the goal, and was then blocked by Chelsea's goalkeeper, Petr Cech, in a clumsy, imperfect, but devastatingly effective save. In that instant, it was as if someone hit the mute button on the entire 70,000-person stadium. Try to imagine that feeling, from the peak of an erupting volcano to the absolute zero of a frozen cave in a single second. Robben fell to his knees, his head in his hands. The other Bayern players all had the same look on their faces. No way! How did that not go in? And on the other side, the Chelsea players, having just climbed back from the dead, weren't celebrating. They just looked at each other, their eyes filled with the disbelieving ecstasy of having survived the unsurvivable. That missed penalty was like a ghost goal. It didn't change the score, but the invisible energy it unleashed was more powerful in deciding the game's fate than any real goal could have been. And you, as a fan, you surely felt that sinking feeling in your gut, that single thought, oh no, it's over for Bayern. Why? Why does a missed opportunity feel so much more devastating than having no opportunity at all? Why is there an unwritten rule in football? The team that wastes its chances will be punished. This isn't superstition or some kind of voodoo. This is a psychological storm of belief, momentum, and the collective unconscious, playing out in real time right before our eyes. And to unlock the secret of this storm, we need to bring in a master, Carl Jung. Jung believed that every person, and indeed every group, has an official face it shows to the world. He called this the persona. For Bayern in 2012, their persona was the German machine, the kings of Europe, calm, powerful, invincible. But, at the same time, behind every persona, there lies a dark side we refuse to acknowledge, a part we repress. Jung called this the shadow. It's the collection of all our fears, our doubts, our insecurities. For Bayern, the shadow was that little voice whispering in the back of their minds, what if we screw this up? What if we become a laughingstock for all of Germany? Robben's missed penalty was like a key. It suddenly unlocked the basement door to the entire team's collective unconscious, letting the shadow out. Before that moment, they were warriors wearing the mask of champions. After that moment, the shadow, now named We Are Failures, began to crawl onto the pitch and wrap itself around every single Bayern player's ankles. Untangling this invisible psychological warfare on the football pitch is fascinating, but it also takes a ton of research and analysis. If you're finding this angle as interesting as I do, I hope you'll take a second to hit that like button with a power shot, and then use a beautiful curling effort to subscribe to our channel. Every bit of your support is the best assist we could ask for to keep creating. Thanks, everyone. Alright, follow my train of thought. Our detective roadmap for today is crystal clear, a 3-step plan. First, we'll get inside the heads of the Bayern players and watch as their champion persona shatters and gets devoured by their own shadow. Second, we'll switch perspectives and see how the Chelsea players, after their trip to hell and back, experienced a psychological transformation so profound you could almost call it a miracle. And finally, the most crucial part, we'll see how this script of the shadow has been reenacted time and time again in football history. And then, we'll talk about what any of this has to do with our ordinary lives. Okay, everyone, attention. First, let's put on a red Bayern jersey and feel what it's like to have your persona shatter into a million pieces. Alright everyone, attention. We are now wearing a red Bayern jersey, standing on the pitch in Munich in 2012. Feel it. Your stadium, your fans, your trophy, all within arm's reach. You are wearing that glorious persona called the German machine. This mask tells you are calm, you are efficient, you are mentally strong, you are a born winner. This mask isn't just for others to see. You believe in it yourself, down to your very core. The moment Robben walked to the penalty spot, that champion persona was shining at its absolute brightest. And then, the ball was saved, and Czech wrote his name into football history. For Bayern fans, it was truly heartbreaking. We get it. In that split second, what happened was far more terrifying than a simple technical error. Jung's theory tells us that an unexpected, massive shock, especially when it happens at the peak moment of your persona's glory, has the power to instantly release your repressed, dark twin from deep within your psyche, your shadow. To help you understand this process better, let's use an analogy. Imagine the Bayern Munich team is a magnificent cruise ship, named the Invincible. Its persona is the grand hull you see above the water, the towering smokestacks, the champion's flags fluttering in the wind. It looks indestructible. And what is its shadow? It's everything below the waterline that no one ever acknowledges or wants to inspect: the rusty bolts, the hairline fractures. For Bayern, in 2012 specifically, their shadow contained the painful memory of losing the Champions League final 2 years earlier, in 2010. It contained the immense pressure of, we cannot fail at our home stadium, and it contained the deepest fear of all the possibility of becoming a laughingstock for the entire country and the world. Normally, in calm seas, the ship sails smoothly, and all anyone sees is its glorious exterior. But Robben's missed penalty was like an iceberg that suddenly emerged from the darkness and slammed into the hull. It didn't sink the ship, not right away. No, it just tore a giant gash below the waterline, in that unseen part belonging to the shadow. And then, the ice-cold water, that is, doubt, fear, and the thought, it's over for us, began to flood into the ship. What's even more terrifying is that all the crew members, the Bayern players, heard the sound of the hull cracking at the same time. They all saw that giant, gushing hole of the shadow at the same time, and so, panic, like a virus, instantly exploded in their collective unconscious. From this moment on, the Bayern players' brains were no longer serving the match. Their brains had been hijacked by their own shadow. This hijacking first manifests as a psychological phenomenon we've mentioned before: counterfactual thinking. Their minds get stuck in a loop, replaying a movie called What If Robben Had Scored. In that movie, they are celebrating right now. The champagne is popped, the trophy is glittering. But in reality, they are still on the pitch, the game isn't over, and they screwed up. This violent tear between the past and the present consumes a massive amount of mental energy. You would notice that after the missed penalty, the Bayern players' legs seemed to be filled with lead. The goal, which once looked as wide as an ocean, now probably looked as small as a mailbox. Passes they could make with their eyes closed now required immense concentration to get right. Their bodies were still on the pitch, but their souls had sunk beneath their own psychological iceberg, and you can definitely understand this feeling. It's like you're giving a very important presentation you've prepared for weeks. Before you go on, you're full of confidence, wearing your expert persona. You feel good, the audience is engaged. Suddenly, out of nervousness, you mispronounce a very simple, common word. In that instant, that voice in the back of your head, you always ignore the one that always tells you you're no good, you're a fraud. You're going to embarrass yourself. Your shadow suddenly grabs the microphone and starts screaming in your head at full volume. From that moment on, you're not giving a presentation anymore. You forget your audience, you forget your slides. You are simply wrestling with that terrifying voice in your head. Your persona has shattered on the floor, and your shadow is completely exposed and in control. This is the collective public speaking disaster that the Bayern players were experiencing in extra time of the 2012 final. They were no longer playing against 11 Chelsea players. They were playing against 11 Chelsea players, plus the 11 snarling shadows that had just crawled out of their own basements. How do you win a match like that? But there are always two sides to a story. As Bayern's cruise ship was being swamped by the sea of its own shadow, what was happening on the other side of the ocean, on Chelsea's little boat that was already supposed to have sunk? For them, that same event, Robben's missed penalty, wasn't an iceberg. It wasn't a disaster. It was a miracle. And miracles have a way of giving people a new, and even greater, strength. All right, as Bayern's magnificent cruise ship was being swamped by the sea of its own shadow, what was happening on the other side of the ocean, on Chelsea's little fishing boat that was already battered and ready to sink? To understand Chelsea, we first need to remember what their persona was at the start of the match. They were the challengers, the underdogs. Their mask, you could say, was the stubborn survivor, or even the glorious loser. They were being battered the entire game, and their objective had likely shifted from win the trophy to let's not lose too badly. It was a mask full of grit, but one underwritten by a sense of we are not as good as them. Then, the penalty happened. Cech, their goalkeeper, saved that kill shot with a combination of instinct and luck. For the Chelsea players on the pitch at that moment, was that just good luck? No. In that state of extreme mental pressure, such an unlikely, low-probability event would be interpreted by their collective unconscious as something completely different. This something is what Jung gave a very cool name, synchronicity. The word sounds complicated, but the idea is actually quite fun. You can think of it as a meaningful coincidence. What does that mean? Say you're struggling with a project and feel like giving up. You walk outside and a bus drives by with an ad that says, "Don't give up. A miracle is just around the corner." Or you've just had a painful breakup, you turn on the radio, and the first song you hear has the exact lyrics you needed to hear. The bus ad wasn't printed for you, and the radio DJ doesn't know your story. There is no causal relationship between these events. But, in your inner world, they create a meaningful connection. It feels like the universe just blinked and sent a text message meant only for you. That is synchronicity. For the Chelsea players, Robben's missed penalty was the strongest signal the universe could have possibly sent them at that moment. The content of the signal was, "Today belongs to you." This miraculous signal instantly shattered Chelsea's old stubborn loser mask. And, in a flash, it forged a brand new, shining, heroic mask for them. The chosen ones. When a person, or a team, starts to believe they are destined to win, what happens? The most important thing is, the pressure instantly vanishes. Why? Because if destiny has decreed that you will win, what is there to worry about? The previous fear of, what if we lose, is instantly replaced by the ecstasy of, we can't possibly lose. It's like you're at a casino, and suddenly you start playing with the house's money. Your whole attitude changes. You're no longer timid. Every bet you make is filled with creativity and courage. The Chelsea players, at that moment, started playing with house money. Let me give you another analogy for this feeling. Imagine you're rushing to the airport, but you get stuck in a massive traffic jam. You watch the time tick by. You've completely given up. You've accepted the fact that you're going to miss your flight. Suddenly, your phone buzzes. It's a notification. "Dear passenger, your flight has been delayed by 2 hours due to weather." Tell me, What do you feel in that moment? It's not just relief, is it? It's a near ecstatic feeling, a main character aura that makes you feel like you're the center of the universe. You feel like the entire cosmos is helping you out. In that moment, you feel invincible. This was the raw emotion surging through the Chelsea team on that night in 2012. They had died once, and were then brought back by the hand of fate. They no longer had any psychological baggage. Every run, every pass, started to become light and confident. It's Sunday morning now, just after midnight here in Japan, and the world outside my window is quiet. Perhaps, in quiet moments like this, you can also look back on your own life. Have you ever had these strange, synchronistic moments? A coincidence, a phrase, a scene, that at a critical moment suddenly gave you immense strength and changed the way you saw your own story? Alright, the psychological scales on the pitch have now tipped dramatically. On one side, we have Bayern, locked in a brutal melee with their inner shadows, their mental energy draining away, and on the other, we have Chelsea, energized as if by divine intervention, high on morale, and even starting to enjoy the game. So, how does this invisible, internal psychological drama actually translate into the goals and results we can see with our own eyes on the grass? To answer that, we have to look at how history, time and time again, has provided evidence for this seemingly crazy theory of a psychic battlefield. You might be thinking that Bayern in 2012 was just particularly unlucky that night, that it was a one-off event. But if you unroll the great scroll of football history, you'll be shocked to discover that this script of the persona shattering and the shadow emerging is like a Shakespearean tragedy, reenacted on the green pitch, time and time again, in different languages, but with the same core plot. Let's turn the clock back to Istanbul in 2005. That was also a Champions League final. The opponents were, arguably, the most magnificent and regal team in the universe at the time, AC Milan, and the tenacious team from England, Liverpool. AC Milan's persona that night was even more dazzling than Bayern's in 2012. It was the mask of the King's Army. Their lineup had Kaká, Pirlo, Maldini, Shevchenko. Every name was like a diamond. They played the most elegant football, and in the first half, they strolled to a 3-0 lead. The game was over at half-time, right? Everyone thought so. It said the AC Milan players were already celebrating in the locker room. Their champion persona had already fused with their faces. But, in the second half, the storm arrived. Liverpool scored 3 goals in just 6 minutes to level the score. That was already insane. But that wasn't the moment the shadow arrived. The true Jungian moment happened in the final minute of extra time. AC Milan's star striker, the nuclear warhead, Shevchenko, the best forward in the world at the time, was just 1 meter from the goal. First, his powerful shot was miraculously saved by the opposing keeper, Dudek. Then, the ball bounced right back to him. All he had to do was gently nod it into the empty net. He did. But the ball, as if hitting an invisible wall, was once again blocked by Dudek, who was practically lying on the ground, in a way that defied the laws of physics. This miss was 10,000 times more unbelievable than Robben's missed penalty. In that instant, the entire AC Milan team's King's Army persona was utterly shattered by this rejection by God. Their collective unconscious, the repressed shadow, the fear of, what if we become the biggest laughingstock in history, was completely unleashed. They no longer trusted their skill. They began to believe, the heavens want us to lose. This meaningful coincidence, this synchronistic event, became the final straw that broke their psychological back. And I have to confess, I'm an AC Milan fan. I was heartbroken. I admit, that was probably the most painful and unbelievable match I've watched in 20 years. The final penalty shootout was already a foregone conclusion. As the AC Milan players walked to the penalty spot, their legs were jelly, their eyes were unfocused. They weren't taking shots, they were fighting the shadows in their own minds. And on the other side, the Liverpool players were convinced they were destined to win. Their goalkeeper, Dudek, did a bizarre spaghetti leg dance and completely destroyed the Milan players' mental defenses. The night in Istanbul became the greatest miracle in football history, and for AC Milan, an unhealable shadow scar in their hearts. History continues to echo. Let's rewind time again, to the 1994 World Cup final in the USA, Italy versus Brazil. The eyes of the world were all focused on one man, Roberto Baggio. With his divine ponytail, he was the undisputed best player of his era. He had single-handedly carried Italy to the final. His persona was the divine ponytail, the savior. The match was dragged into a brutal penalty shootout, the final round. Baggio, the man carrying the hopes of an entire nation, had to score to keep Italy alive. He stood at the penalty spot. Cameras from all over the world aimed at him. He ran up, shot, and the ball, like a bird freed from a cage, flew high over the crossbar. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. Baggio stood with his hands on his hips and bowed his noble head. His savior persona, in that instant, completely shattered. What was left for the entire world to see was a single blue silhouette, completely enveloped by the shadow, the loneliest and most melancholic back in the world. So, you see, from Robben in Munich, to Shevchenko in Istanbul, to Baggio in Los Angeles, these cases are like three shining pins, firmly fixing our theory to the bulletin board of football history. And the theory is this: in a high-pressure, chance-filled arena like football, technical skill and physical fitness can often only determine a team's floor. But how a team manages their collective unconscious, that thing Jung called the shadow, is what truly determines their ceiling. All right, we have now seen the iceberg in Munich, witnessed the miracle in Istanbul, and revisited that melancholic shadow in Los Angeles. All the evidence is now before the court. It's clear that in the top tier of sports, there is an invisible, yet decisive, psychic energy field. This energy field is the direct externalization of the collective unconscious of both teams, and it ultimately becomes a frighteningly powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy. Let me translate that for you. When the shadow of Bayern or AC Milan was unleashed, the script in their minds was rewritten from "We are the champions" to "We are the tragic heroes of a story about to unfold." They started to believe they would lose. And this belief, like a virus, instantly infected their bodies. Their muscles would tense up, their vision would narrow, their decision-making would become hesitant. This hesitation would lead to more mistakes, and more mistakes would, in turn, further confirm their initial belief that we really are going to lose. You see? A perfect vicious cycle leading to failure was formed. And for Chelsea and Liverpool, the exact opposite. That synchronistic miracle rewrote their inner script from "We are the tenacious challengers" to "We are the heroes chosen by destiny." They started to believe they would win. This belief freed them from all their psychological burdens. Their bodies became light, their vision opened up, their decisions became decisive. This decisiveness led to more extraordinary plays. And these extraordinary plays, in turn, further confirmed their belief that we really are the chosen ones. A virtuous cycle leading to a miracle was formed. Your belief writes a script. And then your body, without you even realizing it, faithfully acts out that script, making it come true. And this, my friends, is where the story of a football match finally becomes the story of our lives. We all have our own Champions League finals in life, those moments where everything is on the line, our own penalty kicks. It could be an interview that determines your career, an exam you've studied years for, a moment you finally gather the courage to confess your feelings, or a personal project you've poured your entire heart into. And then, you mess up. You miss the penalty. You give a terrible answer to the interviewer's question. Your mind goes blank during the exam. You get rejected outright. Your project gets no traction. In that moment, in that instant of failure, what happens in your head? Do you also let your shadow, that voice that's always telling you you're no good, you're a failure, I knew you'd screw up, burst out of your subconscious basement, grab the microphone of your thoughts, and start relentlessly mocking you? The most important lesson that Jung's theories, and these teams with their billion-dollar players and countless tears, have taught us is perhaps not how to never miss a penalty. Only gods can do that. The real wisdom lies in how do we coexist with our shadow. The greatest players, the champions who can miss a penalty and still get up and continue the game, their secret is not that they don't have a shadow. Of course they do. Their secret is that they have been to their own inner basement, they have met that monster, they even know its name. So when they mess up, they are able to say to themselves, "Ah, there's that voice of doubt again, I hear you." But today, you are not in the driver's seat. They are able to clearly separate the event. I missed a penalty from their identity. I am a failure. This is the essence of psychological resilience. It's Sunday morning now, just after midnight here in Japan. The world outside is still, and a new week will begin in a few hours. As I end our conversation today, I want to say that each of our lives is, in fact, one long final, and our opponent, more often than not, is not someone else, but our own shadow. And in that game, the real victory isn't about never falling behind. It's about understanding that even when you've just missed your shot, the final whistle hasn't blown yet. You always have a chance to rewrite the script for the next play. And so, our journey into the psychological storm on the football pitch comes to a close. If you were able to stay with me until the end, thank you. Truly, I'm a football fan, just like you, and your support is the true driving force that makes all of this possible. If you find value in these explorations and want to be part of a community that isn't afraid to ask big questions, please consider subscribing to my channel. A simple like, or a comment sharing your thoughts, means the world. I'll do my best to read every single one. Here in Japan, the night has settled in, and the city has grown quiet. So wherever you are in the world, whether your day is just beginning or your night is about to end, I want to send you my most sincere wishes. May you find peace and tranquility in your own life story. Thank you again for sharing your time with me tonight. I wish you a good night's sleep, may you have sweet dreams, and I wish you all the best. Good night.